Right, I'm going to show you the easy way to create a glass. Now, when you're doing real things in Blender, it's often a good idea to have a reference image that you can work from. So I'm going to show you first of all how to put one of those in as a background, and I've found a picture of the glass that I want to create, which is a martini glass. And if you hit the N key, which I've just done, but you can't see that because I haven't turned on the screencast keys yet, so there we go, I'll turn them on. If you hit the N key, this right hand menu comes up. One of the items on that right hand menu is background images, and I can add my background image, which, surprise surprise, is in my desktop, and it's this one bit of martini glass. And at the moment I can't see it because I'm not in a particular view. Reference images will only work if you're in one of these views: left, right, back, front, bottom, and all the rest of it. So if I go into front view, you can see, bang, there, I've actually got the reference image in there. And the other thing you can do is you can make it less opaque or more opaque. You can have it so that you can see it, and you can stretch it, you can resize it. I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller. Something like that's probably about okay. So I'm going to get rid of my wonderful friend here, the cube. So I'll do that by pressing the X key and delete, because I'm going to model this glass from a cylinder. So I'm going to add my cylinder, which is under meshes. Now, before you do anything else, as soon as this is added, we want to come over here where it says vertices, click on that, and I want 100 of them. Because it's a smooth object, I want quite a few vertices on it. And that's all we need to do in there. So now we can play at scaling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this so that it's around about the right height, about there. Now, before I do that, actually, I better do the other thing. I'm going to scale it so it's the right width first, and you'll see why in a minute. Now, I want the width initially is going to be the same as this stem bottom here, and then I'm going to scale it up so that it's the right sort of height. And the reason that I do it that way around is because if I was to try and do it the other way around, I'd be stuck with trying to make it a perfect circle, as you can see. The next thing I want to do is I want to get rid of the top and the bottom faces. So I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to go into face select, which is down here. I'm going to just select that face, press X, get rid of it. Same with the bottom, X, get rid of it. So now we've got a tube, okay, and we're going to make this tube into our glass. And you might say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, I'm just going to show you. So we'll go back to our front view again, and I'm going to add some cuts down here to create a bit more geometry. If we go into the tools here, you've got loop, cut and slide. You select that, you see you've got this purple thing that's just appeared in the middle, and if you rotate your centre mouse wheel, then you'll get a bunch more lines, and we want something like 6. So I'll press the left mouse button, and that allows me to then move them up and down, or I'm going to move them down near the bottom somewhere. So what we've got now is we've got a cylinder with a bunch of cuts. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole row here, and only that row there. So if I go back to selecting points, I'm going to select one point, I'm going to press the shift key, I'm going to select the point next to it, like that, and then I'm going to go into the select menu and hit edge loop, and that's selected the whole loop all the way around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale that in. And I'm going to move it down. And we can see that we want to be somewhere there. And I'm going to do the same with this. Lift it up, scale it in slightly, and then I'm going to do the same with this. And frequently you'll find these reference photos you get aren't quite sort of in the right perspective, so you have to use your imagination a bit. Now we know that in here somewhere there's going to be like a bit of a circle going on around the edge here. It's a bead around the edge. We can see that from the glass. So what I'm going to do now is hit the E key for extrude, which gets me a whole new circle. I'm going to hit escape because I want to be able to control it. I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to hit S for scale, and that's going to go inwards, and it wants to come up a little bit more. And now I'm going to abandon my view there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in this bottom part here. Now if you look at the glass, they sort of go along a bit, they go up, and then there's usually a little dimple in the middle where they're broken off, where they're blown. So you know, hit E again for extrude, escape, S for scale, and I'm going to bring it into about there, and that's the bit of the glass that actually would sit on the worktop or wherever you got it put. E again, escape, S for scale. I'm going to scale this fair way down like that, and then I'm going to move it up to get that kind of recess that you get in glass bases. E again, escape, S for scale, and this time I'm going to drag it down, and then I'm going to hit F. Now what F will do is it will fill that area in there with a face like that. So now we've got the right sort of shape. Let's go back to our front view, and here's where another one of these things in here comes in useful, because we're going to put it in front so we can see it. And I'll bet you've been wondering about that all the time. So we're going to carry on fitting our glass to our stem exactly the same way as we did before. Select, edge loop, scale down, bring it down to there. Now you'll note that I'm not following the curves exactly. Scale it out again because it's a bit small. Part of this is because you can't really exactly fit it to the image, and part of this is because we're going to be adding a modifier very shortly, which is going to make our life a lot easier and mean that we don't actually have to worry too much about the curves. And I will show you that very shortly as soon as I've finished doing this. Edge loop, S for scale, down, 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 down to about there, I think. S for scale. Now what I want to do, I think this is actually an asymmetrical glass in the picture, so I'm going to move it over a bit, like that. So maybe minus 0.08 would do it. Yeah, there we go. And this is going to make it easier for me to get this curve here in the stem right. And the next line of vertices I want is going to be in the middle. It's going to be the tapered part. So I hit S for scale. That's about right. The next one we want is about there at the start of that curve, I think. And that goes somewhere around about there-ish. Scale that in. Yeah, this glass isn't very symmetrical at all, the one in the picture. If we were going to be ultra realistic, I suppose we'd try and make sure that our glass too was not symmetrical, but I don't think I'm actually going to be that bothered with it. Right, now you can see that we've actually run out. We need probably, hang on a minute, we need a few more vertices in here. We want 1, 2, I think. So what we're going to do is loop, cut and slide. So if we go in there, loop, cut and slide, you can see that gives us a line. Click the left mouse button again, we can move that to the kind of level that we want it at, which is going to be there. And then we can do that, actually it's going to be easier. Hit escape, Control Z. It's going to be easier if we scale it immediately. Be about there. S for scale, like so. And we're going to put in another loop, cut and slide, and we'll put that, because there's kind of a slight bow out there. I don't know if you've noticed that. There is. So I'm going to scale that out to there, and then select edge loop, and we want to scale this right out so that we've got our rim. I'm going to bring it down a bit because I think that's a bit of a more pleasing shape for it. Right, let's have a look at what we've got. Yeah, we've got quite a passable glass shape, but we do need an inside. So seeing as we've got all this outside connected already, plus also if you look at glasses they have a slight bead around the rim, and we want to really simulate that as well. So I'm going to move this a little bit further down still, scale it in slightly, hit E, escape. I'm going to raise it up going to scale it out, but not that much, about that much. E again, escape, raise it up, scale it in, and we can drop it down a bit. You can see we're turning over the lip now to make the inside of our glass. And extend again, extrude, sorry, escape, scale it in a little bit and drop it right the way down, and extrude once more, escape, drop it down, and this time we're going to scale it up because we want this lip effect. You don't want to scale it up too much, otherwise it's going to come obviously outside the rim of the glass. So there we go. And now what we want to do is we need to follow these vertices here. So we want to extrude, we want to scale it in, and now we need to make that coincide with this, but be a bit smaller. And the way to do that, we're going to come down here, and instead of solid we're going to turn on wireframe, which will let us see inside. And we can drop this down so it's the same level. We can zoom in a bit. You can see at the moment it's too big, it's actually outside that. We want it to be inside. So we're going to hit S. It's quite a thin walled glass, so it's going to be thin down there. And we're going to hit E again to extrude, escape, drop this down so it's the same sort of level as the next ring. We're going to scale it down, and this time we're going to make the glass a bit thicker because the glass does get thicker at the base here, like so. And we're going to hit E, escape, drop it down, going to scale it almost right the way in, and F for face, and that's it. That's our glass modelled. So we're going to go into object mode, go back into solid, and we'll come out, and you can see that's a reasonable looking glass. Okay, it's going to look even better in a minute. Right, what we want to do now is we want to turn off our image because we don't need that anymore, and it's going to get really confusing if that keeps popping up. And we're going to give this, going to press the N key to get rid of this menu, get that out of the way. Oops, not the B key, the N key, escape, N key, that's better. Bit of finger trouble on the old keyboard. So there's our glass. Now it's not really very curvy at the moment. One of the things that will help with that is to set it to smooth shading, but the thing that we really need to do is to go into modifiers, and we're going to add a subdivision surface, and what that does is that makes it, that sort of smooths out all the curves. And now what we've got is all the curves are actually really smoothed out. Look at that. It's brilliant. In fact, the curves are probably a little too smooth in places, but never mind, that will do us for now. For this particular project we're going to use Cycles Render because Cycles works rather better with glass, so I'm going to set this to Cycles Render, and personally my GPU supports cycles render. I don't know if yours does. So if you click here, which is the render settings, and we'll get rid of that because we don't want it. You can set up your dimensions here, which, you know, depending on what sort of size screen you want, you can have all sorts of different ones. 1920 by 1080 is fine. We're not actually going to do an animation, this is just going to be pure image. And here we have sampling presets for various things, and here they're suggesting this is too low. We want about 50 at least in there, possibly 500 for a final edit. We want to set indirect clamp. If you've got glass in the scene, you want to set indirect clamp to about 3 and direct clamp to about 1. Don't ask me how that works, it just does. Light paths, well, we leave that alone. If we get a lot of noise, we might click no caustics. And the rest of it is performance based tiddling around, which you don't really need to worry about. So that's that. Now what I want to do is I want to set up the world, but before I do that I want to get rid of this lamp, because that's going to do us no good whatsoever. I'm going to set a world colour, which is going to be kind of a lighter yellow colour, something like that. And I'm going to add in a new lamp, and the lamp is going to be basically a plane that I'm going to turn into an emitter. But I'm not going to do that quite yet, because I want to set up the material for our glass, which surprisingly enough is a new material, and it uses the glass shader. What a surprise. And I'm going to give it a very, very slight blue tinge, only a very, very slight blue tinge. You can go blue, you can go green. As a later part of this project, another tutorial, we're going to add some fluid to it using the fluid simulator. So that fluid's going to be red, so I want a slight blue tinge to the glass. Make sure the roughness is at 0, index of refraction about 1.45. That's absolutely fine. That's all you need. So that's the glass material set up. Now if we were to render it now, we wouldn't see anything because we've got no light, and we haven't set up a camera view, so I don't know what we're going to see. Yeah, I thought as much. So if we go view top, select the camera, we will need to move the camera away so that we've got the whole of the glass in the scene. View camera again, and G to grab the frame, and we can move it up. Something like that. Be fine for a camera position. Now I'm going to save that camera position in case I accidentally move the camera, and the easiest way to do that is at frame 0 just insert the keyframe, and you want location and rotation, and that's it. And now if I move the camera anywhere by accident, then as soon as I change the frame, it should move back. And it's not. Why is it not? I don't know why it's not. It should do. Ah, that's better. Of course I was changing the end of the animation, not the actual frame number, so that's okay. All goes to show, everyone can make screw ups. Right, so that's the glass, and we now want a lamp. And that's all we need for this particular demonstration. So we're going to add a plane. I'm going to move the plane because I want the light over here somewhere, shining down from the top left. I'm going to move the plane up there. I'm going to rotate it a bit to give the light some direction. I'm going to scale the plane up, S for scale. Give a reasonable amount of light output. I'll put in a plane for a floor just temporarily so that you can see it as well, but for the moment we'll put in our material for this plane, and the material for this plane is going to be an emission material. Find it, it's here somewhere, chaps. Emission, colour slightly yellow, strength I don't know, maybe about 120 or something like that. We'll see how it goes, and we can render that now and we'll actually see something. I'm going to stop the render there. So there's no point in rendering the rest of it, it'll just be yellow. So you can see what we've got is we've got a glass and all the reflections are there, various other bits and pieces. Of course, most of the things that convince people that it's real come from the environment around it, and we won't be doing anything about that until the next tutorial. But what I will do quickly is I'll put a plane in so that you can see how the glass actually affects what is underneath it, and I'm going to do that, show hide render view, and I'm going to add in another plane. Scale it up. This time I'm actually going to move it to be under the glass. Scale it up again. Actually I want it smaller than that because I'm going to keep this plane, I'm going to use it. Going to use it in one of the other demonstrations, and we'll just go in a bit and twiddle around. Yeah, that's near enough, resting on it. So we then need to give this plane the material. We're going to give it, just leave it as it is, straightforward diffuse BDSF, and we're going to make it a nice sort of bluey colour, but we'll make it darker. There we go, how's that? That's quite a nice colour there. We can do that. So now if I render it, And we're back in the room. So, as you can see, we've got a shadow, we've got things that are going on underneath the glass. I mean, if we zoom in, you can see how high quality the render is. That is really pretty good. And you can see the shadows under the glass, you can see the reflections of the glass on the base here. Now if you want to save an image so that you can keep it, then the best way to do it is just to go down here when you're in this render view and just save a copy. And so I can save it on my desktop. It's always going to be a PNG. I can call it glass and save as image, and then there we go, glass.png, and what I'll do is I'll use that as the thumbnail for this video. So there we go. That's it for this particular tutorial. Next time I'll be showing you how to add a complete environment and also to produce a cloth to throw over our square there using the cloth simulator, so that we've got all the folds and it'll even have a pattern on it. Then after that there'll be another tutorial, and that will be putting liquid in the glass using the fluid simulator. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please like and subscribe and all those good things, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.